What is up, everyone? My name is Jack Saville, back again with another WrestleMania review, and today I'm here with my WrestleMania 10 review. Yes, the 10th annual WrestleMania, taking place in Madison Square Garden in New York City, since it'd been the 10th WrestleMania. At that point, WWE figured, why not go back to the place where it all started? I guess, well, they say 10 years later, but technically it was actually 9 years later. But who cares? It's the 10th WrestleMania. It does still make sense. So, Vince McMahon introduces Little Richard to sing America the Beautiful alongside a choir around him. I swear he was lip-syncing. Was he lip-syncing, or was there like an audio syncing issue in it? I don't know. It just sounded a bit off to me. So we're joined by Jerry the King Lawler and Vince McMahon for tonight's show. These guys would be the commentators for the next couple of WrestleManias, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, they're basically the voices of the new generation era. So we kick things off, oh my god, in an incredible way. Bret the Hitman Hart versus Owen Hart. Two brothers colliding at WrestleMania. So the storyline for this was, at Survivor Series the previous year, Owen inadvertently knocked into Bret while he was on the ropes, and he ended up being the only Hart eliminated from the 4-on-4 Survivor Series match, and got frustrated at Bret. And then 2 weeks later on Superstars, Owen challenges Bret to a match, but Bret declines the challenge. And then on Superstars, it looks like both men were on good terms again, and they were going to face the Quebecers for the tag team titles at the Royal Rumble, but they didn't win the match, and because Bret couldn't make the tag due to an injured leg, and that cost them the match. And then Owen turns heel on Bret and just kicks his leg and basically turns on his brother, and Owen just claims that Bret's just held him back his entire career and that he's going to beat him at WrestleMania. And man, this match was just brilliant. It's one of the best opening matches to a show I have ever seen. So, like, things started off very even at the start. Owen hit a really good pile driver on Bret, but Bret ended up hitting a slingshot plancher to the outside. He jumps over the ropes, but tweaks his knee on the landing, which would be a big selling point for him throughout the night. Owen locks in a figure four, but then Bret turns it over. He's able to hit a great pile driver and a superplex from the top. He locks in a sleeper hold, but Owen kicks him in the nuts to escape. And he locks in a sharpshooter of his own, working on the bad leg of Bret, which was good strategy. And so Bret goes for a victory roll from the top rope, and then Owen puts himself on top to win in a pretty shocking fashion. Usually, well, I think most people going into this thought Bret was going to pick up the win, but seeing Owen get the win here, I thought that made a lot more sense. Owen definitely got his moment to shine in this match, although Bret definitely held his own in this. This was just an awesome match. Great story, great payoff, great characters, and yeah, it was just a great match overall. One of the best matches in Mania history, in my opinion. Definitely the best opener in Mania history. And then after that, we had a pretty fun mixed tag team match. It was Bam Bigelow and Luna for Shawn taking on Doink the Clown and Dink the Clown. So the rules were only Bam could fight Doink, while Dink can only fight Luna. And although Doink hit a DDT on Bigelow, he would win the match by hitting a diving headbutt, and then him and Luna would attack Dink after the match. So yeah, fun little match overall. Nice seeing Bam getting the win in this. I know he'll be in a big time match at next year's WrestleMania, but it was a fun match to see. And then throughout the night, we kept cutting to like this Bill Clinton impersonator, and then WWE keeps building it up like it's the actually Bill Clinton, which it's not. It's obviously not. It reminds me of Capital Punishment in 2011 when they had that Barack Obama impersonator, and they were building him up like he was the real president. Like, fuck, that was stupid. So dumb. So after that, we get to another really damn good match. It was a Falls Count Anywhere match between the Macho Man Randy Savage and Crush. I believe this would be Randy Savage's last match in the WWF. He would leave to go to WCW later on. So the rules were that if any wrestler was pinned outside, they had 60 seconds to run into the ring or they would lose. So yeah, it's very different to the Falls Count Anywhere matches that we see nowadays. So Macho Man was dropped onto the guardrail to get the first pin, like almost straight away. But then Savage manages to get back into the ring. And so Crush grabs the ceremonial salt from his manager, Mr. Fuji, to throw it at Macho Man, but he smacks it back in Crush's face. He hits the flying elbow on him, but he rolls out of the ring to get the second fall of the match. And Fuji grabs a bucket of cold water and just pours it on Crush to wake him up. So yeah, Crush, he's a heel in this match. At the last WrestleMania, he was the colorful surfer babyface. Now he's kind of completely changed. He has a much more darker personality. Not like Demolition levels of darkness, but something like along the lines of that. So they fight to a backstage area where Savage pins Crush. He ties his feet together and he hangs them above like a pulley inside the building for him to get the win. So yeah, another very fun, good match. Crush, you know, he's not exactly the greatest wrestler ever, but when you pair him up with someone good, especially someone like Macho Man Randy Savage, who can put on a great match with a fucking broomstick, it can be very, very good. And this ended up being a really damn good match. So, yeah, not a bad way for Macho Man to send off when it comes to the WWF. It's unfortunate that we never got to see him make a return later on down the track before he passed away, but it was, honestly, if this was the last memory we saw of Macho Man in WWF, and honestly, not that bad if I say. After that, we had the Women's Championship match, Alundra Blayze defending against Leilani Kai, who was at the very first WrestleMania against Wendy Richter. But this was a nice little showcase match for Alundra Blayze. She was basically the pushing point of WWF's restarting the women's division at this time. So because they had it removed for a couple of years and then they brought it back just recently at this point. So she wins by using a German suplex bridging pin. Alundra Blayze was a very good women's wrestler for a time. It was a shame that she had to kind of almost destroy the women's division by going over to WCW in '95 and dropping the belt in the trash, but it would eventually recover a couple of years later. So after that, we get the Tag Team Championship match, the Quebecers, with Johnny Polo, who is actually Raven. Yeah, this is so weird to see some spoiled brat or whatever turn into the edgy Dark Lord in ECW. Taking on Men on a Mission with Oscar in their corner, which was made up of Mabel and Mo. So the Quebecers went after them before the bell rung, but Mabel fought back with clotheslines to both men. The Quebecers managed to suplex Mabel and hit a senton on him, but he kicked out. Johnny Polo pulled the wrestlers out of the ring to receive a count-out loss. Yay, count-out losses. Wow. And then Men on a Mission celebrate with the titles despite not winning the championship. So, didn't like the ending of this match. Wasn't a big fan of this match, honestly. Yeah, just two teams that were just not that incredible. The tag team division didn't really seem like it was on fire during this time period. So, yeah, there's not much I can really say about this match other than not that good. And then we get to our first WWF Championship match of the night. Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji in his corner defending against Lex Luger, the American hero Lex Luger. He's no longer the narcissist. This all started when he was on is it the USS Enterprise or whatever it's called? Yeah, it's not the ship from Star Trek. But, yeah, he pretty much, Yokozuna had a body slam challenge, like an open challenge. Anyone could try to body slam Yokozuna, basically. Lex Luger accepted the challenge and ended up body slamming him. They even had a match at SummerSlam 93, but he didn't win the championship, although he won by DQ or count-out with some shitty victory like that. So, Lex Luger co-won the 1994 Royal Rumble alongside Bret Hart, which is why both men are getting a shot at the WWF title tonight. So, yeah, Yokozuna pulling out double duty alongside Bret Hart as well. So Donnie Wahlberg, who was New Kids on the Block star, who was the special ring announcer for this match, and Rhonda Shear, who was host of USA's Up All Night, was the guest timekeeper. And the guest referee of this match was Mr. Perfect. So the two-man worked a rather meh match. So Fuji and Cornette, yeah, Jim Cornette was in Yokozuna's corner. He was the English speaker for Yokozuna. So they jumped on the apron to distract Luger, but then he throws them back into the ring and beats him up a little bit. And so Luger goes for the pin, but Perfect is too focused on the managers near ringside, and Luger's just like, "What are you doing, man? Get focused." And he kind of loses his cool for a bit. He pushes Mr. Perfect, and he gives him a disqualification loss for it. So I don't like DQ finishes at WrestleMania. Save that for Monday Night Raw. Why was it that in WWF in the early days had to give count-out losses and DQ victories on fucking shows like this? I don't get it at all. But storyline-wise, it kind of made sense. Mr. Perfect, I believe, turned heel after this. So, yeah, the match itself was alright, but the ending sucked a little bit. So, a bit of a disappointment all around. And then after that, we had Harvey Wippleman in the ring, and he's insulting Howard Finkel's appearance because he had got a new haircut, grew a bit of hair, not too much, but he got a good fresh cut. And so he's basically making fun of him, bullying him basically, which causes the Fink to shove Wippleman to the ground. And then Adam Bomb comes out to grab him by the tuxedo, since he was Harvey Wippleman was his manager at the time. And Earthquake shows up and to stop Adam Bomb from attacking him, and they compete in a match, and Earthquake wins in 32 seconds. So yeah, that happened. But you know what did happen though? A ladder match for the Undisputed Intercontinetal Championship. Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels with Diesel in his corner. What can I say about this match that hasn't been said already? It's one of the most groundbreaking matches in the history of wrestling. So the build-up for this one was Jack Tunney stripped Shawn Michaels of the Intercontinental title because he wasn't defending it enough, although many people claimed it was because he didn't want to drop the belt in real life to someone, or I'm guessing he got suspended for drugs or something like that. I mean, it was Shawn Michaels in the 90s. We all know what he was like with pills and shit. Razor ended up winning the championship in a battle royal, although Shawn Michaels made his return later on. He finished up his suspension and claimed that he was the true Intercontinental Champion because he never lost the belt properly. And there was one point where Michaels got the help of IRS to steal Razor's gold chains from him. So a lot of animosity between the two going into this match. So Diesel clotheslines Razor and gets ejected from ringside, basically. He pulls off the outside padding and he goes for the Razor's edge, but then Michaels reverses into a back body drop and just slams onto the concrete. And so he goes to grab the belts, but then Razor, he pulls down Shawn Michaels' pants, exposing his ass, basically. And so Shawn Michaels goes for his famous splash from the top of the ladder. One of the best screenshots, I guess, in the history of WrestleMania. And so Razor slingshots HBK into the ladder and tries to climb, but then HBK stops him. Shawn Michaels gets suplexed off the ladder, like halfway off the ladder, and then he climbs to the top rope and propels the ladder onto Razor, which was a very cool spot. He sets up the ladder onto on top of Razor, but then he gets pushed off and he lands his nuts right on the ropes, and his leg gets caught up on the ropes, which has an opportunity for Razor to grab both championships and win the match. So obviously, by today's standards, obviously the ladder match has been raised up amazingly over the last few years, especially when we get to WrestleMania 2000 and X7, because those three teams raised the bar a bit too high. But, yeah, this was an absolute trailblazer of a match, man. Like, one of the most important matches in WrestleMania history. It did so much for both careers of Razor Ramon and especially Shawn Michaels. I feel like this was the first match where he started to become Mr. WrestleMania in that case. So yeah, just an incredible match. Still holds up to this day, although it's not as crazy and as spot-ridden as some of the other matches in WrestleMania history and just ladder match history in general, but still, what an incredible match, man. We were going to get a 10-man tag team match. It was IRS, the Head Shrinkers, Jeff Jarrett, and the model Rick Martel going to face 1-2-3 Kid, Sparky Plug, Tatanka, and Smoking Guns. But because they couldn't decide a captain for the match, they ended up having to cancel it. Although in reality, it was because of the time restraints, because HBK and Razor went on a little longer than expected. So we had to just cut to the main event, which was for the WWF Championship. Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji in the corner defending against Bret the Hitman Hart. It is a rematch from last year's WrestleMania. However, the championship is now on Yokozuna and not on Bret the Hitman Hart. So they showed a video package hyping up this match. I believe this was like WWF's attempt of maybe one of their first attempts at a proper promo package. Like for WrestleMania as well. I don't know if they've done this to other shows beforehand, but this was like the first proper hype up video that they'd show before matches. So they showed highlights of Bret's career up until the match, set to Making Some Noise by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And then it also showed Yokozuna's Tear of Destruction as well. Cool little promo. I mean, it's for their first for WrestleMania, so it's not as grand as crazy as some of the other ones. So the guest timekeeper is Jenny Garth, who was the star of Beverly Hills 90210, very popular show in the 90s. And the guest ring announcer is Burt Reynolds, who is an actor and just an overall sick cunt. And the guest referee was Roddy Piper, which was nice to see him. What I loved about this was Bret was still selling the leg injury from the opening match, as Yokozuna just goes after Hart immediately, and he keeps trying to make a comeback, but Yokozuna just would stop him almost every time. I said this in the WrestleMania 9 review as well. Like, Yokozuna is just a fantastic monster heel. He's so believable in just his size and just his presence when he comes to the ring, basically, and just how he goes in there to kick your ass, basically. And with Bret Hart as well, he plays such a good sympathetic babyface in this match. You want to see Bret overcome this massive obstacle in his way and just pummel through and become champion. So Yokozuna went for an avalanche in the corner, but then Bret moves and hits a top rope bulldog, and he jumps from the middle rope but gets caught into a belly-to-belly. And so how this ends is Yokozuna goes for his bonsai drop, but he slips up on the ropes and loses his balance, falls on the mat. So Bret takes the opportunity to go for the pinfall, and he wins the WWF Championship. And honestly, I'm so happy they gave Bret the belt instead of Lex Luger, because it was looking like in the months before WrestleMania 10, it looked like WWF were building up Lex Luger to become the replacement for Hulk Hogan, because he was the all-American babyface with the big muscles, basically. He was a Hogan clone to a certain extent, which I know Lex Luger would be anything but that, because, you know, he's not an American hero, he's the total package. I don't get why then they didn't just build him up as just the total package Lex Luger instead of American hero, but who cares about that? Bret Hart wins, all the babyfaces come in to celebrate with him, and what I loved as well is just the little things, because Owen Hart was up the ramp, everyone's celebrating, and everyone's like, come on Owen, get into the ring. He just looks at him in disgust and just walks off. So this would probably be the setup for their cage match at SummerSlam that year, which, if you haven't seen that match, man, that's a good fucking cage match. Probably one of the best in history. But, yeah, just a pretty solid main event. Obviously, the two other matches beforehand were just out of this world. One of the best matches in Mania history. But for a main event, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good main event, I will say. And that pretty much wraps up the show there. Match of the night. Oh, damn. If I could pick two matches of the night, I would. this is the complete opposite of WrestleMania 9. Because you know how I said in my WrestleMania 9 review how it was hard to pick a match of the night because there were no good matches? Well, the problem, it's the complete opposite with this show because there was like 2 5-star classics on this show. But as much as I love Bret versus Owen, and don't get me wrong, like if I could pick 2 matches of the night, I would. But I have to give it to Shawn and Razor. It just was groundbreaking for its time, man. It did so much for WrestleMania and for propelling the career of Shawn Michaels as well as Razor Ramon. So, yeah, I have to give it to that match, man. How am I going to rate this show? You know what? This was a great show. This is a really good show. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought this was a very damn good show, in my opinion. The opening match was brilliant. The ladder match was brilliant. The main event was fucking good. But there were a few matches where the endings weren't that good or just a bit dull. But overall, this was a damn good WrestleMania. Probably one of the best. At least top 10 material right there. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below your thoughts on WrestleMania 10. If you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. You'd be glad you did. Twitter and Instagram's at JackermanLaw31 if you want to check me out there. Thank you so much for watching. And I am out in 3, 2, 1.